delays by various ministers in taking final decisions in dozens of International Trade Administration Commission customs duty investigations have resulted in the loss of 1.25 billion rand in revenue. This is according to a report by Mckay Global Trade Advisors. We're joined by the CEO and founder, Donald Mckay. Donald, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Firstly, tell us more about what these investigations would be about.
So companies would approach government either requesting protection from imports, so asking for higher duties, or they would request a reduction on import duties because the product is not available locally or not available in sufficient quantity locally, and so they would be asking for the duties to come down.
So ultimately, these are matters that would need to be resolved with a certain sense of urgency, I'm imagining, given the fact that it is part of trade and business wants to get on with its job of doing business?
Yeah, absolutely. So the guidelines say that an investigation should be completed within 4 to 6 months, which I think is reasonable. But many of these investigations are now running past 2 years, creating lots of uncertainty in the market. And as we know, uncertainty certainly is not breeding investment.
Are there sectors which have been most affected by this?
Yeah, it does seem to be an equal opportunity problem here. So it is spread out all over. There's some agricultural stuff, there's tires, there's some steel items in there. It does paper features quite prominently as well. It does seem to be spread out fairly broadly without one sector particularly receiving the brunt of it.
When you follow up with the department, particularly of trade and industry, what do they say?
Not a lot. It's being considered and will be notified when a decision has been taken.
What do you as business read into this?
Well, to be clear, I don't think there's anything malicious occurring here, but I do think we've just kind of run into inertia. So ITAC, the International Trade Administration Commission, which is the body that does the investigation, seem to be wrapping up their side of the investigations for the most part, perhaps not perfectly in time, but certainly the quicker part of it. It's when they've completed their investigation and made a recommendation that it seems to slow down. So it's either sitting with the Minister of Trade, Minister Patel, or it's sitting with the Minister of Finance, Minister Gungubele. And it's very difficult for us to know which of those ministers is causing the delay.
So ultimately then, Donald, if I understand you correctly, what the ministers really need to do is give the final sign-off on investigations that have already been conducted. So it's not the departments themselves that are having to carry out these investigations.
No, so there may be exceptions, but I would argue that almost all of those in my report have already been completed and are simply waiting sign-off. And that little act of signing off has a profound implication. So if we consider, for example, companies who have requested more protection or higher duties, if those had been granted, just for the overdue period, SARS would have collected roughly another 1.2 billion rand in taxes. And for companies that require duty relief because the product is not available locally, that would be another 2 billion rand that is overpaid, that could currently be used by those businesses to create jobs, invest in new equipment, who knows what they wish to do. So we seem to be we've run into what I don't think is a policy problem. I don't think the ministers are in principle opposed, but instead have just run into an administrative problem, and hence I think it's very easily fixed.
All right, Donald, thanks for bringing it to our attention. CEO and founder, Mckay Global Trade Advisors.